Hello, this is Gregory Smalley on Pod 366, a weird movies podcast. Joined today by Giles Edwards over
Hello,
there.
everybody.
How are you, Giles?
Oh, I'm pretty well. As you may see, if you're watching this, I'm back in my not Airbnb cell.
You've recovered from your Fantasia overindulgence?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's an overindulgence. It was 10 shy of a previous record, but yes, it's been a different and refreshing week.
It was a big week. Before I forget, I will announce some sort of news that you already know and other people know, but we haven't announced it officially yet that long rumored 366 Weird Movies book will indeed be published in 2024. So finally have a publishing contract to get that thing out there. That doesn't mean I'm done with my work. I got to work up until November on it, but it's coming.
Well, it's document signed. Fantastic.
So it's only like about 3 or 4 years after we announced it was coming. Here it comes.
Well, I mean, considering delays we've had with other publications, combined with the number of reviews, I believe there are going to be 366 of them in this one. I think that's lines up with how we do things.
Reviews in this, that is true. And there are definitely that many. Why don't you just vamp for a second there, Giles, while I get my stills ready, since I didn't have them ready.
Sure. Well, there's one thing that arrived in the mail yesterday that I might want to raise the awareness of. Some of you may know Phil Tippett. He did Mad God. There's a big honking beautiful book of his out there available now for only $40 instead of the normal $200. So if that's the kind of thing you like, a collection of the artwork from him in his studio over these past many decades, that's on super sale right now.
Does it have Mad God in it?
It's titled Mad Dreams and Monsters, Art of Phil Tippett and Tippett Studio, so yes.
Oh, okay. You did receive a copy?
Yep, showed up yesterday.
Okay.
And it's big, heavy, and very nice to look at.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, so let's start out. Oh, look at this. It's Barbie. Oh no, it's not Barbie. Let me look at it more closely. It's Sharknado. Yes, Sharknado is out in theaters, and look at this. It's August 15th and 16th. What day is it today?
By golly, it's too late.
Thank God.
It's the 18th. Oh no, Greg, oh no.
Oh, thank God. Oh, save people from accidentally going to see Sharknado. Thank goodness. By the way, I hate this movie.
I've never seen it, but there's a reason for that.
You're a lucky man. Although I do like this poster that's ripping off Barbie. I mean, it's more clever than anything that's actually in the Sharknado movie, other than the title. I just wanted to throw that out there. Also, another movie you missed is Old Boy, which was back in theaters briefly, and that would have been a much better choice. So if you were thinking of going to some movie that, taking a time machine and going back earlier this week and going to a revived movie, I would go to Old Boy, not Sharknado. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to catch that. Geez, a week and 15 hours ago, I just stepped out of the late night screening at Fantasia for the restored Old Boy.
Was that your first viewing of Old Boy?
It was. I'm glad I dawdled these many years and was able to see it all big and pretty.
Did it punch you in the jaw?
Well, as I remarked briefly, well, I knew something must be coming, but the punchline as it came was, How about that? That's something. So,
Now, how about the scene where he suddenly becomes a kung fu hero with a hammer? That was
oh, the hammer scene is great. The little side scroller hallway thing. That was one of the many beauties to behold there.
yeah, it's a really fun movie that we're not covering this week.
Yeah.
Here's something that we are covering this week, although we don't know much about it. What do you recognize this, Giles?
I do. I watched the trailer about 15 minutes ago, and then to try to figure out what the movie was actually about, I went to the IMDb plot page. That is a Cyclops with a lower jaw tusk thing going on as well from the movie Caverna.
Yes, and we really don't know much about this movie at all. We didn't have a lot of theatrical releases or really much of anything to cover this week, other than Fantastic Fest, which we'll be talking about, excuse me, briefly. But this popped up in my inbox, and apparently, from what I can gather from, there's like 2 reviews out there of it. It's from Italy. It is about a group of people. I don't know if they're, I don't really know what they are. They might be patients, they might be acting students, but they're going through some sort of therapy where they enact classical myths to help deal with their psychological problems.
Yes.
Described as dreamlike, both in the ad copy that I was sent and by the one reviewer that I read. Other than that, like I say, we don't know much. It's from Italy, and there is something that will appeal to Giles about it.
Is it really, really short?
Yes. It's only an hour long.
Oh, okay.
And it's on VOD, not in theaters or anything. And so that's just kind of a shot in the dark, because there were really almost no other movies released this week. So that's Caverna. More thoughts about Caverna, or?
And the description on IMDb, half of it sounds interesting, with a cyclops strangles a man and chases a princess through a forest. That sounds kind of neat. And then it talks about in a theater workshop outside blah, and man, that is in a theater workshop is one of the biggest red flags for me when it comes to film description. So who knows? But as you pointed out, it would only be an hour time investment, so I might even volunteer at some point.
Well, I will say I do like the design on the Cyclops.
Oh, the Cyclops is really cool looking. Yeah, the trailer alternated between, oh, this is a kind of neat dark fantasy, and oh, these are some people doing avant-garde theater. So yeah, who knows?
Well, we can't say much about that one, but I can recommend this one. Giles, have you seen this? Do you recognize it first?
Oh, I recognize it. That palette there, that sort of dusty candy palette, and arrangement of text and people just screams Wes Anderson, specifically Asteroid City. But I have not seen it yet.
That is indeed what it is. It is Asteroid City, which is a movie. When it was first announced, we said, okay, yeah, another Wes Anderson movie. They're always kind of flirting with the weird side of things. We'll check it out, but I'm not really sure that it's something we want to cover. Then I went and saw it in theaters and said, oh yeah, this is something we'll want to cover. And so I waited for it to get released on Blu-ray, because the video on demand was actually more expensive than buying a Blu-ray. So I waited for that and got it, watched it, and I just wrote it up for the site today. And it is definitely a recommended film. It is Wes Anderson's weirdest movie.
All right.
Which is not to say that it's like David Lynch weird, but there are moments in it that are weirder than probably anything he's ever done, particularly the very end and most of the third act. And of course, it has probably the best cast he's ever worked with.
Oh,
You've got, as we can see, there's a lot of young actors. He always finds some young actors who do a good job in Wes Anderson movies, and then generally are never seen from again. But there's Jason Schwartzman, of course, who is probably his favorite leading man, as you can see in the photo here, with a pipe in front of the billboard. There is Tom Hanks, who plays the role that I suspect was originally written for Bill Murray of the grumpy grandpa, packing a pistol there. Scarlett Johansson is the female lead, and there are just all sorts of recognizable names and faces in it, including, not quite a spoiler, but you'll really have to look hard to catch him, Jeff Goldblum.
oh, cute.
You really have to look hard to catch him. In fact, I saw that he was in the movie, watched the movie twice, and didn't see him, and had to go look and see where he was. So there's that. Margot Robbie shows up for one scene. I mean, the cameos are just kind of amazing in this.
Yeah, I see here Lee Schreiber, who I have seen only very rarely in general, but have always enjoyed. So cool.
Anybody, any actor you can think of is in this. Just name a random actor and they're in it. It is also a meta movie, because the entire story of Asteroid City, which we see here in color, is being related to us as a play. So we start out by watching a TV show hosted by Bryan Cranston, which talks about the development of the play Asteroid City. And then we see dramatized scenes of the playwright planning it out, played by Edward Norton. And then we see the actual movie being played out. And it breaks the fourth wall many times, most notably in a very, very cool scene in the third act. That's actually one of the most poignant scenes, I think, Wes Anderson has ever made. And I guess I don't want to spoil too much about what happens there. People who've seen it know what happens. Also, at the midpoint of the movie is it's a very strange scene. Is one of probably the boldest and most audacious scenes that Wes Anderson has ever done. It's not weird per se. You'll know it when you see it, though. I'm going to tell you. And I can't say much more about that, except that even if you suspect something like that's coming, it still is going to surprise you in how it happens.
Okay. Well, your description there, at least up to the fourth wall breaking point, but the filming, the stage, and the who's it, and in general, the more I've seen of Wes Anderson and Peter Greenaway, the more I am seeing parallels between the two, with, to me these days, Anderson movies feeling like a kind of candy-coated Greenaway experience, with their ornateness and formality, but done in a softer way than the British director does. So I'll be very interested to see this movie.
Yeah, I suppose they're both formalist and stylized. You know, one thing about this movie is, although I've enjoyed Wes Anderson's previous movies, this is the only one that's actually kind of made me think. It's the only thoughtful movie. He usually does these movies. They're very witty and sophisticated, and they're comedies, and they're entertaining, and they're intelligently put together, and they're great to look at, but they don't really make me think. And this one sort of did. Which is, I think, you know, I wrote, I don't know if it's his best movie or not, because not everything hangs together, but it's certainly his most ambitious movie. And it's one of the most memorable movies in his catalog. And if you're a Wes Anderson fan, you've probably already seen it and know everything I'm talking about. If you're kind of on the borderline of Wes Anderson, this could push you one way or the other. You might become a fan after watching this, or you might watch it and say, that's it, I'm done. I'm not watching another one again. Either way. But in general, I recommend it for just about anyone. So we talked about that for a long time. Any more thoughts on that, Giles, or even questions or anything?
Yeah, there's nothing in particular. It was there were a number of people at the festival I was attending who chatted about it, who remarked, yes, odd goings on vis-a-vis the narrator character, but that's all they said, and you covered that. So definitely toward the top of my to-do list, or casual to-do list.
Right. This one and Beau is Afraid are the two you should definitely see before the end of the year for weirdest movie of the year voting. Other than what you've already seen. Okay. So we talked a long time about that, which I figured we would. So this one, here's another one we don't know much about. It's called Last and First Men. It came out in 2020, I believe, and is just making it to Blu-ray now. I think it played a date or two in New York City. What it is it's a film by Jóhann Jóhannsson, the Icelandic composer, who is not generally a director, but he composed the music for Mandy, among other films, and was well known as a composer before that. So this is mainly a musical, and as I gather from my research, it is basically his music and a series of shots of this brutalist Czech architecture that he came across, all in black and white. And then on top of that is Tilda Swinton narrating it, and the narration she reads is from a novel called Last and First Men, which is a dystopian novel about the future, and I don't know much more than that. Giles, do you know anything about this?
From the trailer and blurbs, it did have another, let's see, I'm not sure if red flag is the word, but something that caught my eye. The word hypnotic, whenever I see that usually means lacking story, which in this case makes sense considering the nature of the project, and so I'm more inclined to view that kindly here. And yes, just looking briefly at IMDb, this is another short one, being only 70 minutes, which suggests that with music that's the high quality that I know Jóhann Jóhannsson can provide, and of course the fountain of talent that is Tilda Swinton, and Eastern European capacity to write very good dystopian prose, I bet this is going to be at least really neat.
All right. And speaking of Tilda Swinton, she's in Asteroid City also.
Yeah.
Among everybody in
everyone
Asteroid
else.
City.
Yeah.
Everybody you can think of, except for Nick Cage. I'm sad.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Wes Anderson with Nick Cage, that'd be that couldn't help but be an interesting project, but anyway.
Yeah, but Nick Cage could not act in a Wes Anderson movie. He couldn't do it. I mean, could not tone himself down like that. And you wouldn't want him to do it.
Oh no.
But maybe having him in a Wes Anderson movie where everybody else was acting in a Wes Anderson movie and Nick Cage was acting in a Nick Cage movie, that might work. That might be interesting.
I'll write a letter to both of them.
Yeah, write a letter to both of them. Get on that. Okay. So that's on Blu-ray. Asteroid City's on Blu-ray. Caverna is on VOD only. And those are all the new releases of any interest this week. So the remainder of our time, we're going to talk about Fantastic Fest's slate. They just dropped the complete list of movies there. It is not, I don't have the date on this. I didn't write it down. It's not happening until September. Do you have the date by any chance?
Let's see. I got the website up here. It's loading. Austin, Texas, September 21st through September 28th.
So for a change, we're going to preview a festival that you will have time to buy tickets for in advance if you want to, and you happen to live in Austin, Texas. because usually we do it the day the festival starts or something.
Yeah, well, glad we
But
got
I
it.
saw that they had announced all these and thought we should go through them. Also, I should mention TIFF has, I think their entire lineup is not announced yet. Toronto International Film Festival. I don't know if we'll cover that one because they have, although they have a huge number of films, they have less weird ones and certainly not the genre type movies. There's always one or two there that don't show up somewhere else, usually more in the art house vein. I don't know if we will cover it the way we have been covering some of these other festivals, but I should mention that that is also coming up and something to keep an eye on.
PIF is coming up in 20 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes, according to their website countdown clock.
Yeah, yeah. So just before Fantastic Fest, and that'll be the end of the festival season. I think with Fantastic Fest, pretty much there's really nothing after that of interest until we get all the way back around to January and Sundance comes out. So with a number of things to talk about in Fantastic Fest. I think the first thing is I'll mention all the movies that are repeating from Fantasia. And I will say that if a movie plays both Fantasia and Fantastic Fest, that is usually a good sign that the movie has a lot of legs and is going to get distributed and get, if it plays both festivals, it's usually there's zero chance that it's not going to get distributed. So
yeah,
that's always a good sign. So the movies that I caught that were repeats were all ones, of course, Giles has seen, so he can comment quickly on them. Divinity.
Hey, I watched that. Yeah, that was good and weird. Retro future, dystopia thing, very myth heavy with a lot of stuff unexplained vis-a-vis a couple astral travelers, a clan of let's see, intermittently existing young women, and but the bulk of the story taking place at this beautiful house of the pharmaceutical mogul and genius who devised effectively a eternal youth elixir.
All right. Next, the Fantastic Golem Affairs.
That was a very cute Spanish movie that explores various silly rom-com style things through the hook of, oh, there's this service available in this particular otherwise fairly realistic world set up there in which one can have golems made for oneself or loved ones. The opening bit involves a guy and his buddy on a rooftop doing a charades kind of, guess the movie title thing. The buddy goes a little too far enthusiastically and ends up falling down, I don't know, some 3-4 dozen flights outside the building and shatters into thousands of pieces. And his friend is kind of confused that, oh, my good friend of all these decades is made of clay. And he explores that while there's a little side thing with a worrying amount of people being crushed by pianos from the sky.
Okay. Next, Killing Romance from Korea.
Killing Romance. Oh, yes. That one was an out of the blue delight for me. It wasn't described very well, and I'm not sure I will be able to describe it well myself. It's a musical, but it doesn't have an overbearing amount of musical numbers. There's a story of a young woman who becomes hyper famous for one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard about, and she ends up marrying this sort of hyper Branson-esque mogul guy who is, very beloved and talented and super rich, but also a hyper controlling sociopath. And she eventually wants to escape his clutches, and to do so enlists the aid of a new across the street neighbor who happens to be one of the officers of her fan club that set up shop some years prior. And so a lot of very strange, silly but also tilting heavily into weird goings on there. So that was a whole lot of fun.
Okay. Next one is that's a repeat is Suitable Flesh, which I believe was Joe Lynch.
Yes, Joe Lynch's Suitable Flesh. That was a great late night screening. As I describe in my brief remarks, it's the most Stuart Gordon movie you'll see that isn't actually directed by Stuart Gordon. So if you enjoy things like Reanimator, Castle Freak, and the other bunch of stuff that he did in the mid to late 80s, then this is very much in that vein, particularly as it has Barbara Crampton as one of the co-leads. Heather Graham is very effective and amusing as a kind of sexy horror icon now, which is, from my understanding, something of a departure of what she started out as. And a little shout out to one of my earliest interview targets, Graham Skipper, who has a nice small role as one of those creepy pathologist guys who invariably has a sandwich while he's messing around with dead bodies.
So I guess Heather Graham is kind of playing a Barbara Crampton-esque role in a movie that Barbara Crampton is also in.
Yes, so it's like two Cramptons for the price of one.
Barbara Crampton, by the way, is just turned into kind of a treasure in her old age. She's very active on Twitter and active in the horror movie scene. She left horror movies to go act on a soap opera where she was, very successful. But then she, came back around to horror movies in her old age to championing them, and so she's a really cool lady.
Yeah.
And then the last one that's a repeat is Where the Devil Roams.
Yes, that is from well, I refer to them as the family Addams because Addams Family, of course, is, means what that means. This is a quattro of upstate New York filmmakers. They live on the other side of a very large forest from me in the Catskill area. It is John Adams, it is Toby Poser, and their daughters Zelda and Lulu Adams, with Lulu Adams being very active behind the camera. I don't believe you see her on screen, but the other three playing the main characters of a mother, father, and daughter trio in Depression-era Catskills, New York. They are traveling alongside a kind of carnival thing during, tail end of that Dust Bowl, except put much, much more northeast than most of those movies, exacting vengeance on various shady characters until a pivotal mistake is made and things start collapsing in a rather dark, magic, and unsettling kind of way.
Okay. And I just wanted to say, in my own research about the Addams family, I've got a prediction that Zelda Adams may become a big star in the future. I think she has that potential because I noticed that she now has a sort of modeling contract and she's been in Vogue. So
yes, she's had that, for some amount of time, but yeah, she is definitely an up and comer because, gosh, when I first interviewed her with her mother and father in what apparently was the Addams family's first media interview experience ever, she was, I think, only 14, and so now is in college and has already a decent career in underground cinema under her belt. So I have no doubt that she'll go to whatever places she cares to.
yeah, at that age with this much success already, I think that I predict that you will be seeing her in some bigger projects. I don't know, but that's just a prediction.
Yeah, it's an interesting grouping because they, the four of them have, it looks like, the possibility to get in larger things if they wanted, but are very keen on their small bore family unit, friends of theirs kind of thing, and get, the satisfaction they want in the biz from that without having to really, make any compromises to their storytelling vision. So, but yes, she'll go where she wants to, as I imagine could pretty much any of those fine, pleasant, fun time people.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to do before we get into the new releases is to mention the revivals, because there is one canonically weird movie being revived there, which is Blood Diner, which is actually no longer rare, but when I first wrote about it was pretty rare. Since then, it's been revived many times, put out on Blu-ray, and has increased its cult standing, which I think is just a coincidence with me having published our review. I don't think we actually did that. I can't take credit for it.
That was number 14 on the list, back from mid-March of 2009.
And then Messiah of Evil, which is a movie, I think it's an Apocrypha candidate that Shane Wilson reviewed, which I saw many, many years ago, is most notable for a scene of a bunch of what may be zombies eating raw meat in the grocery store.
Nope, yeah.
And then Nowhere, which is also an Apocrypha candidate, despite the fact that I don't like the movie by Greg Araki. That one has a lot of fans.
This is an early borderline weird.
Yeah, it's part of his teenage apocalypse treatment.
Okay. I remember this. Yeah, you mentioning this sometime since we started these podcasts.
And I guess there's one more which isn't exactly a revival, but sort of fits in here.
Are you going to mention
do you know what I'm going to mention?
I'm guessing it's got Peter O'Toole and Malcolm McDowell in it.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk about it.
Apparently the ultimate cut of Caligula is going to get a screening. So all 173 intermittently glorious minutes of that really odd production that manages to be both shocking and boring in equal measure.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is like a totally new movie from what I understand, because something I read led me to believe, and it couldn't possibly be true, but that they used entirely B-roll footage to construct this, and that there's almost nothing from the original that actually appears on screen, because apparently they shot like 100 hours of footage.
Okay.
And so there's that. Also, I'll mention this already played at Cannes, where it was greeted by walkouts, which, as one commentator said, didn't make any sense because you knew what you were coming to.
Yeah.
The movie is 50 years old. You couldn't have been blindsided by it.
Yeah, I'm going to say anyone in a Cannes audience is at least going to know about what kind of thing it is. So,
although it could have been the length that made people walk.
Yeah, because all the versions that I know about are 2.5 hours plus, and are just mix and match depending upon what footage they're opting to include.
So that's that for the revival. So, Giles, why don't you describe what did you see that caught your eye? Well, first off, let me get one more thing out of the way, because it's not a movie. And then I noticed 4 new movies of interest. Well, one of them's not a new movie, but 4 movies of interest. I just wanted to point out that 30 Coins Season 2, Alex de Iglesias' TV show, horror TV show, first 2 episodes of Season 2 will be debuting there. And Robert Hubbard reviewed that and liked that. But on to movies. What caught your eye, Giles?
Not much. There were some striking posters, and I mean the title, "The Coffee Table," kind of stands out as something strangely mundane, especially in comparison to the rather shocked person image on the front. So the description, so now Jesus has decided it's time to take a stand, and if that stand comes in the form of buying the world's tackiest coffee table, then so be it. So that's the kind of description that I'd read in Fantasia and go, okay, that's going to be at least worth a look, because I don't encounter many movies named after such household objects that are associated with a horrified looking man. The Jar has a very ominous looking jar.
go ahead with the jar.
Oh, I don't have really too much to say other than it's another great looking poster and has one of those that simple just monosyllabic kind of thing and aura of menace surrounding it. So, but if you have something to say about the jar, please do.
What I have to say about it is that it is their only movie that they have these tags. It's the only movie that they tagged with surreal in the entire festival.
Okay.
So it's a surrealist horror movie, which are kind of rare. We don't really know much about it. It's a series of scenes of meeting strange characters and strange events. So that's the jar. Anything else that caught your eye?
I was quickly looking at it now. Mushrooms might be promising. It's got the word mushrooms in the title, and that, of course, has a number of possibilities behind it. And also the fact that it's directed by a Polish fellow who's mostly had done advertisements, which is something I at least like to investigate if possible, because a number of directors I like also basically earned their money directing advertisements and then funneled it, most famously being the fellow whose name slips my mind right now, but the guy behind The Falls, or The Fall, excuse me, financed that particular passion project entirely from his music video and advertisement haul for more corporate purposes there. So mushrooms could be promising and is also only 75 minutes.
All right. Well, we are running a little short on time, so let me rush through 3 movies I think are of note. One is I'll dispense with probably quick because people aren't going to be able to see it unless you're there. That's The People's Joker, which played there last year. It is a parody of the Joker, the DC comic supervillain. Only the Joker now is trans, I believe, is the hook. That was screened at a couple of festivals last year and was pulled from distribution after threats from unnamed corporate entities, which everybody figures is likely to be DC Comics. Fantastic Fest is saying screw you and screening it again. So I guess kudos to them for that. The other 3, Conan, ANN, is the Bertrand Mandico's latest movie about the character of the barbarian Conan, only this time Conan is a woman portrayed by many different actresses in different time periods as the story jumps about in time. And so that one's going to be very interesting. And the last one is there is a new Toxic Avenger remake with the actor that everybody has been saying should clearly play the Toxic Avenger, Peter Dinklage.
Oh.
Who else would you think?
Who else? I mean, come on.
And so that pretty much wraps us up.
We got less than a minute according to this notice. So
that's it. Go to Fantastic Fest and see you next week when our guest will be what's his name?
Pat Tremblay?
Pat Tremblay, yes. Pat Tremblay, who has a new book out that we will discuss. And see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, Giles. We'll be dying here in just a second. Okay. Well,
or another second.
I thought the recording's done, so. Oh, am I still recording?
Oh,